We are back. I'm Britton. I'm here with my dad, Todd.
Hello, fans.
And welcome to another episode of Days of Our Sooners, where we talk about the never-ending soap opera that is Oklahoma football. But wait a second. We had a bye week.
I got some sleep this weekend.
Oh. No heart attacks, luckily. So, I was actually wondering if we should do an episode on the bye week or if we should just, take a break. But I thought, I think it'd be a fun idea to be nostalgic about the good old days of OU football.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, Brett.
And we're basically going to be talking about some of our top 5, anyway, favorite games from the Oklahoma Sooners as a sort of treat, I guess, for other fans. I also got some fan feedback on Twitter, too, so I'll read those later.
Yeah. Well, I've been going and watching OU football since I was about 6, 7 years old, maybe younger than that. So that's 50-plus years. So tough to pick 5 games out of that, Brett.
I know. I've only been around for 21, and I'll admit it was actually pretty tough, too.
Uh-huh.
I'm lying. There was a couple ones I'm like, oh, man, I want to change that. And then there was some I'm like, would be on my top 5, but they're a bit too recent. So.
Uh-huh. So let's get into it.
I actually have some honorable mentions. Do you have some honorable mentions?
Sure, I got some honorable mentions.
One of mine is OU versus Ohio State from 2017. We beat that son of a bitch, Urban Meyer. Can't stand that guy.
Baker Mayfield crammed the flag into the middle of the field.
Proud day to be a Sooner.
That was a great day. I thought,
and to prove that Urban Meyer is not invincible.
Right.
Which is always a good day.
The year before that, we'd lost, so we go back there, big underdogs, and we pull out the victory. Very happy with that game. It's one that I should have had on my list. So,
what's your first honorable mention?
First honorable mention, I'm just going to mention the first game that I ever went to live with my dad, September 23rd, 1972.
Oh, wow.
8-year-old young Totto. We waxed Oregon 68-3.
Oh!
That's the day I fell in love with Oklahoma football. I do remember a bit about the game. I went with my dad, obviously, and I think he might have been a student there. I don't know, but we went to the game, and I remember Greg Pruitt, which is a name you may not know, but he had 195 yards rushing. So.
Oh, wait, wasn't that the... No, wait, that was the other guy who was mentioned last week. Sounds similar.
Anyway, that's my honorable mention.
My next one is the Big 12 Championship in 2018. We went against those pesky Longhorns. Thought we were going to lose there for a second, but then Trey Brown, the man who bailed out Oklahoma from so many losses, walked in and sacked that pesky Sam Ehlinger in the end zone and gave us the victory.
I do remember that game well, and I heard that Sam Ehlinger is going to start for the Colts this week.
Ooh, yeah, they got a past his prime Matt Ryan over there, so why not?
Yeah,
he is not terrible. He definitely gave us some great games.
Yeah, he's a good player, and I think is that his name, Matt Bryant? Anyway, he got hurt, so they're going to put in Sam Ehlinger. So we'll see how he does in the pros.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, great game. I loved it. I loved when I remember that play well because we were a little nervous. And then all of a sudden, Trey Brown was shot out of a cannon and blew Ehlinger up in the end zone. That was the end of the game. So that was a great one. All right, my number 2 honorable mention. Another one when I was a youngster, 1973, OU, Texas.
Those were the Switzer days, wasn't it?
Those were the Switzer days, and I remember I was watching the game on TV. Granny was asleep on the couch. Had to be quiet. She didn't like to be woke up. And OU blew them out. It was the largest victory by OU in that series at the time. And just a guy by the name of Steve Davis was the quarterback. I don't know if you know that name.
I don't think I know that name.
Yeah, so he was a great, legendary quarterback. Won 2 national championships for the University of Oklahoma. You need to learn about him. Died in a plane crash.
Oh.
He was actually a pilot, and something happened and he had a plane crash and died. But that's my number 2 honorable mention.
My last honorable mention here is OU Texas last year, where I was certain we were going to get exposed.
Oh yeah.
By Steve Sarkisian and those pesky Longhorns, but then a wild Caleb Williams appeared out of the abyss and basically played the game of his life that day.
It was unbelievable. I remember your hat took a beating that day.
Yeah, that was...
and I didn't think there was any way we were going to come back. Had a Texas fan heckling us on the deck. And slowly but surely we came back. Our guy, Caleb Kelly, ripped the ball out on the kickoff. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember we were confused. We were like, what? Why are they celebrating?
Yeah,
they tackled the guy.
They tackled the guy and run into the end zone. What's going on here? And
then stripped it.
Yeah,
that was it.
That was a great game. That was a great game. Another honorable mention from me, OU Nebraska, 1986. Now, you don't know the story of OU Nebraska that well, Britt, but that
was
was
only alive for like a decade.
Right, that was our biggest rivalry as we were growing up. Texas, yeah, that was a big game in October, whatever. But OU Nebraska was
really over Texas. I thought OU Texas was the big one.
No, OU Nebraska was much bigger than OU Texas. That always solidified who was going to win the Big Eight the Big Eight back in those days. And also who was going to go to the Orange Bowl. The winner of that game typically went to the Orange Bowl. And many, many years, it put them, either one of those two teams, into the national championship hunt. Now, this game, I believe it was in Nebraska.
Oh, gosh.
one of the last years Barry was around. We're down 17-7 at Nebraska in the cold weather, November. Oof. With 11 minutes to go in the game.
Uh-oh.
We've only scored 7 points the whole game.
Uh-oh.
We're running the wishbone, which is a running offense. We can't pass the ball. But we had a guy named Keith Jackson.
I think I've heard of that guy.
He was the tight end. He actually ended up playing for the Miami Dolphins. And we had the quarterback, Jamel Holloway.
I've heard of that guy, too.
He was a wizard of the wishbone. He'd run, flip the ball out. It was amazing.
Wasn't he the guy who replaced Troy Aikman?
He was, after Troy broke his leg.
That's where I knew that name
After
from.
he broke his leg, he's the guy that replaced him. So,
what could have been?
I know we were ranked maybe 1-2, 1-3, 2-3. We were both highly ranked teams. And we go down and score a touchdown with Keith Jackson with just a few minutes left. And then we get the ball back and go down, and another amazing catch by Keith Jackson gets us in field goal range, and we actually kick a field goal with 6 seconds left and win the game 20-17.
Ooh, I bet a lot of great games from that era.
Oh my gosh, so many, and we rarely lost. Another one that I just want to mention real quick is I went to Notre Dame and watched in 1999. I actually went to Notre Dame.
Yeah, so that must have been fun.
I wanted to mention that one as well.
Wasn't that Bob's first year?
That was Bob's first year. Had a lot of excitement into the year. We lost to Texas. They came back and beat us. We had them beat. But anyway, I'd never been to Notre Dame. Actually, a couple friends of mine went to the Notre Dame game. Fans were fantastic there.
They didn't harass you when it was
everybody
over?
was shaking our hands. It was nice. They had nice fans there. And we actually had them down. Had them beat, too. And we just couldn't stop them there in the second half and lost the game, so that's why it's not one of my favorite games.
They're slippery.
They are slippery.
We did finally beat them, though.
Yeah, but
we finally cracked it.
It was a blast watching the historic OU versus Notre Dame game in Notre Dame. Saw touchdown Jesus there.
Oh.
Said hi for him. That was before you were born. So anyway, anything else on yours on?
No, I was gonna mention when we played like Nebraska not Nebraska, Miami back in like when we first had Bradford, but I'm like, that's not really memorable. That was kind of a blowout. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I remember enjoying that victory though for whatever reason.
Right, 3 games in a row before you were born, we lost. We had 3 great teams could have won the national championship 3 years in a row, but we were beaten by Miami 3 years in a row against our nemesis Jimmy Johnson.
Man.
So they had a guy by the name of Vinny Testaverde as their quarterback.
I bet it was tough when he went to Dallas. That must have been tough to root for.
It was tough to root for him. So anyway, yeah, those were some great games. We had the Boz back then.
Oh, was him in his prime?
Boz in his prime, and those are the years. I don't know if you've seen the 30 for 30.
I saw the Boz one they did once.
Did you see the Notre Dame versus Miami game, Criminals versus Catholics?
I heard about it. I didn't actually watch it.
You need to watch that one. Those were in the same years when we lost those games. Miami had a bunch of criminals on their team.
Ooh. That must have sucked. That's like a Bills level of just
yeah. And that Testaverde played in the pros for a long time. He was a great quarterback. He was a great college quarterback. So anyway, those are some fun times to remember.
All right, I guess we're at the list then. My number 5. It was actually tough making this list, believe it or not, for me, because I'm like, oh man, I've seen a lot of memorable games in this era. What's one? But I remembered OU Baylor from 2019 when Matt Rules had us by the balls, but somehow, big game with his, I don't know, Alabama Black Magic. I guess it's a come-over from Nick Saban. Biggest comeback in OU history, if I remember right.
We were down, like, by 20 or something in that. It seemed like we were way down in that game.
Oh my Lord! Yeah, I was like, "This is over." And I was like reading, and then I came back for the second half. Came in, won it. Oh, unbelievable! I thought we were gonna lose that game.
Yeah, that was a great comeback and a great game. Yeah, I remember that one well.
That was the year I graduated high school. Yeah. Yeah. That was in the Riley era.
Did we have,
I think that was the last year we had CD, too.
Okay, we had CD, and Kennedy Brooks was a freshman that year?
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe.
We didn't have P. Ryan, and we didn't have Mixon, right?
Yeah, no, I think they had been in the NFL. I miss P. Ryan.
Yeah.
He was great. He was one of my favorite players.
He's actually still in the NFL.
Yeah, no, he's doing pretty good. He got into the Super Bowl last year.
That's right.
Unbelievably. I was not expecting that from... Yeah. I thought the Bengals were going to build towards a Super Bowl. Nope, Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, it's amazing he and Mixon are on the same team, and they're kind of the 1-2 punch, although Mixon plays the bigger role on the Cincinnati Bengals, and P. Ryan comes in as a third down back, but he's still pretty effective in the pros. So he was one of my favorite players all time. I really loved P. Ryan.
But yeah, that was a great game. Matt Rule, when I think we actually played him again in the Big 12 championship, and we barely won that one because Lincoln loves his nail biters, man. That's all I can say.
He does. All right, number 5 on mine. I can't believe this is number 5, but it's just because it was so old and we lost. But the game of the century, 1971.
I had a feeling you'd bring this one up.
Yeah. OU Nebraska and Norman, Oklahoma. Undefeated, both teams. Ranked number 1 and number 2 in the country.
A game that, if I remember right, pisses off OU fans to this day.
Yeah, the guy clipped him. That's it. Everybody knows it. We had Jack Mildren. We had Greg Pruitt.
Oh, wow.
We had Leon Crosswhite, our fullback. We had Joe Wiley. We had the wishbone running at a high level. Jack Mildren, one of the best quarterbacks in OU history, but we actually jumped down to a 17-14 lead in the first half. The thing that was crazy about it, we had 311 total yards in the first half. Nebraska has 91 yards in the first half, and we're only up 3 points. And then that Nebraska machine, they were so good back then.
Was that when they had their Barry? His name's like Tom Osborne, I think?
Tom Osborne. I believe it might have been... I think it might have been Bob Devaney that was the coach back then. I'm pretty sure it was Devaney, and then Osborne came in. Him and Switzer kind of ushered in together and had the same...
Wasn't this game before Switzer?
Yeah, Switzer was our offensive coordinator at that point.
Aha.
And I think Osborne might have been on the staff there, but I believe it was Bob Devaney as the head coach. But great game, 35-31. If we would have gotten the bow back one more time,
would have won it.
We would have won it, but we ran out of time. And the play that you're talking about, Heisman Trophy winner Johnny Rodgers. You need to watch that play sometime.
I will. I do like history.
He ran a punt back in the first quarter, I believe. And Greg Pruitt, our star running back, this is when our stars played.
Oh, I thought it was like a game-losing run. This was like early in the game?
This was early in the game, but Greg Pruitt was our great running back, and he ran down, had a chance to tackle him right off the bat, and missed him. And then as Johnny ran in the middle of the field, obvious clip. Should have been called back, and we still would have won. But anyway, great game. They call it the game of the century. Years later, I believe in 2017, they took a vote on, I believe it was ESPN, took a vote.
I think I remember this.
And that game still was ranked number one all time. Even
wow.
30 years later, 40, 50 years later, I don't know. But that's still ranked, in all college football games is the number one game of all time.
I'm kind of surprised. I thought like Notre Dame or Alabama would be up on there.
You would think so.
But no, I guess
that
not.
only made number 5 on my list because we lost. So
all right. My number 4, Sugar Bowl 2014. We went up against good old boy Nick Saban and his Black Magic.
Uh-huh.
One of the greatest upsets I've ever seen from OU, because that was another game I'm like, yeah, we're going to get smoked. We can't beat Saban and his Black Magic machine at Alabama.
You're talking about the Alabama game, okay.
And Trevor Knight, before he just crapped out and then Baker showed up, unfortunate what happened to it, because Trevor Knight played the game of his life that night.
That was an unbelievable game. Uncle Lance called me before the game and said, "Hey, I'm in Vegas. You want me to bet on the game for you?" And I said, "Absolutely not. We're getting ready to get crushed." He bets $100 on it and calls me later and said, "I just won $650." So, anyway, there was no way we were going to win that game. Trevor Knight, I love the guy, but he just wasn't that accurate of a player. And we didn't have all the stars that we needed that year.
But, man...
He that night.
He played it that night.
Yeah, he made it that night. He was an all-star that night. So.
Yeah, I like Trevor Knight myself. He seems like a nice dude.
Yeah, and our defense played well that night too, as I recall. So,
one of my favorite plays, right at the end, he slaps the ball out of one of the white quarterbacks from Alabama who were indistinguishable over the years. We smacked him and then grabbed the ball and got the touchdown, and it was just like. Adrian Peterson all days over there. He's like, because he was at the game. Great time.
Yeah, that was a great game, and I thought Trevor Knight was going to kind of usher in a better career for him, but Baker came along and knocked him out of the starting lineup. Oh, man.
And, again, beating Saban, that's a good flex for Bob Stoops and the gang.
Yeah, and then they come out afterwards. Of course, Saban's like, "Well, we usually like to play in the national championship game, so we weren't that fired up for that game." Well, then don't show up. How about that? You're not fired up. Don't make excuses. Alabama was on the field. Oklahoma was on the field. Oklahoma won the game. Goodbye.
Gotta love Saban.
He's an excuse-making machine. He doesn't go right for his Black Magic. All right, number 4 for me, another one, just as you were born. October 7th, 2000.
Oh, boy.
Misty day down in Dallas. Very cool.
Oh, yeah?
In the fairgrounds.
Oh, yeah?
Oklahoma versus Texas.
Uh-oh. Red River.
63-14. Josh Heupel lit the Longhorns up. Quentin Griffith. You remember that guy?
I think I've seen photos of him in your office.
6 touchdowns by himself.
Oh, my Lord.
Rocky Kalmus, old linebacker. Interception for a touchdown.
That's one of those games I wish I was alive to see, because all the games I've seen were always nail-biters.
I actually snuck Mom into the game at halftime, so she got to see halftime. And we actually led 42-0 at half. Now, that was a celebration in that game. No worries. The whole side of Texas... They just left. And it was just OU fans in there. We just kept running it up on them, so I loved it. That's my number 4.
Was that when you thought OU was back? Because,
that's when I knew they were back.
I know you lived through some dark years with the Sooners.
Oh yeah, before that I've watched or listened to every OU football game from probably 1970 to today. Other than that black hole of John Blake, we were getting beat so bad. I was so disgusted with what I saw.
We were like Kansas, weren't we?
Oh my gosh, I couldn't even. We lived in Dallas, luckily. So, getting the games on the radio was almost impossible down there. But, and then, there was only a few games on TV, if any, because OU was so horrible. So, really, I kind of got lucky and didn't have to witness that little episode. But oof. I know when we moved back here in '99 and then Bob Stoops came to town, I went and played a golf tournament and he was there. Little guy, I said, who's the little guy over here that's like the OU guy? Our kicker? Who's this guy? It was Bob Stoops. I went over and shook his head and thanked him for coming to Oklahoma, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I grew up in the Stoops era, so a lot of fun games with that man.
You've lived up in a golden age, just like I have. I've lived in a golden age also.
Actually met him in a Mexican restaurant. That was funny.
Uh-huh.
It's on a school trip.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a cool guy. I like him. He's a great coach. What about number 3? You got number 3?
Number 3 for me. Oh, man. My first Red River on this side of the ball. Red River, 2020. Only one that's been in overtime, if I remember right.
Okay.
4 overtimes.
Yes.
Me and Dad were on the edge of our seats.
Oh, yes.
Probably the great... it is beyond comprehension that we don't get one classic. But then the next year, we get another one.
Oh, yeah. It can happen.
This one is a classic. OU was looking sus. 2020. We were in kind of a rebuild year.
Right.
We lost Jalen. We lost a bunch of people. We got Rattler. Lose 2 in a row. First time that's happened in a long time.
Right.
So me and you were kind of sweating... over this game.
I do remember it.
Once again, I like to call him our savior, Jesus. Sam Ellinger goes over, fires. Trey Brown picks it off, ends the game. Gus Johnson, one of my favorite commentators, is running the game. Amazing.
Yeah, I remember that game well.
Dicker missed it like twice. That dude never missed. That dude rarely missed.
Right, and he was there for like 10 years.
I know. Dicker the kicker, as Gus would call him.
I think he might be kicking in the NFL now. So, yeah, great win.
Oh,
I'm glad we didn't play Texas this year, so we don't have to worry about a nail biter this year. I've already forgotten that game. That's erased from my memory.
Oh, Lord.
That could be some other Texas fan top 5 one of these days. So. My number 3, you were talking about, did I know we were back with that 63-14 beatdown. 2 weeks after that.
Oh, boy.
Mom's pregnant with you. About 8 months pregnant with you. Sticking out. We go to OU, Nebraska. They're ranked number 1. We're kind of still a little edgy. Are we really for real? I don't know. We're scared. Are we going to get exposed by Nebraska? They jump out on us 14-0. So then everybody in the stands are going, oh, it's the John Blake era. We were just fooled. It's going to be a bad year again. And all of a sudden, Josh Heupel and that defense started playing their hearts out. And that's the catch. I don't know if you remember Andre Wolford diving backwards.
Oh, yeah, I think I've seen that.
Him popping in the air and him catching it.
Yeah.
That was the game. We win the game. People are throwing oranges all over the field for old time's sake, because we would always do that when we beat Nebraska. Walk out into the streets outside of the stadium, and it was utter chaos, pandemonium. The OU fans were freaking out. It was one of the funner games I've ever been to. So that's number 3 for me. And then they called that Red October because we beat Texas. And then we came back the next week and beat Kansas State, who was actually ranked in like the top 10 for sure.
Wasn't that Bill Snyder? Wasn't that like the peak of the Bill Snyder?
Oh,
era?
yeah. And then we came back and we whooped Nebraska which was ranked number 1, and that vaulted us to number 1,
Oh
back
my
where
gosh.
we belong. So that was a great
That
day.
must have been a great day for Sooner
my gosh,
Nation.
that was fantastic. That was fantastic. All right, number 2. What you got,
Number
big
2,
boy?
one of my favorites. A classic of OU football. In the later era. I like to call it the bowling alley game. OU went up against Tennessee. Not a lot of expectations for this game. This was the one that really made Baker, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we go down, we start getting spanked. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
dang it, I'm going to lose. So I go out bowling with my friends that night. I look at my phone. Somehow, we've managed to slip right back into the game. Tie it, go into overtime. Managed to keep it in overtime, get in the second, double overtime. Then, dude throws it, and Zach Sanchez
Right.
picked the ball off, won the game. I was freaking out from the bowling alley. I'm like, oh my God! Went home. Me and Dad celebrated.
Yeah.
It was a great win.
That was actually
my favorite Baker win.
It was on my honorable mention list, Brett.
I
I thought we were going to do 4 or 5 honorable mentions, and I have that down here. OU beating Tennessee, big comeback is on my list. So, yeah, one of my favorite games. Mom and I watched that in the backyard. You ran off to the bowling alley with your buddies. Yeah, great game. I love that game.
Oh my Lord! I think I either called you or I went back to the house. I was like, "Oh my God, we won that game!" It was amazing, amazing.
All right, number 2 for me. I know you've heard of this game. It's the Uwe von Schaman leading the Ohio State fans.
I thought this was going to be your number 1.
Like a conductor.
I thought this was going to be your number 1.
Like a conductor, block that kick, steps up.
I knew this one was going to be on your list.
1977 at Ohio State, Woody Hayes, the nasty Grinch of college football. Woody Hayes.
I've heard he was a character.
We had a guy by the name of Thomas Lott, great quarterback.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, had a guy that you might remember, Billy Sims, was our running back. He was a sophomore then. Both of those guys get hurt in the game. We come out stomping their rear ends. We're going to blow them out. And all of a sudden, our 2 best guys get hurt in the game. Ohio State works their way back, gets ahead of us. We score a touchdown, kick an onside kick, get the onside kick, drive it down another 20 yards, and then that's when the magic happened. Conducting the fans. Block that kick. Ooey, leading it. They called timeout to freeze the kicker. He was still doing it. It was greatness, and he booted it through. Actually, it was at Star Wars. I was at a birthday party that day. I couldn't stand myself, so I came out of Star Wars and asked the guy that was selling popcorn what was going on right at the moment when he was getting ready to kick the kick. And they said, he's going to kick the kick, and I know he's going to make it. And then he said, we won the game. And back into Star Wars I went. So that's number 2.
I like that story. I always think it's funny you saw the first Star Wars that was during that game.
Yeah. Number 2 for me. All right. It's down to our number 1s.
Number 1 for me.
Number 1.
Now, I was a few months old when this game happened, but it's one I like to rewatch because another classic. 2001. OU, Texas. Yep, it's another Red River. We went up against our favorite chew toy, Chris Sim, and kind of a dramatic game, or not really, or well, you could say it's a dramatic game. Get up to 7-3, a couple picks. Jason White comes in. That was the game that made him, wasn't it?
Well, that launched his career, yes.
Then final part of the game. Sim is on the 1.
Right.
So they're like, all right, we're in a precarious spot at the moment. Roy Williams, the great safety, pulls this unbelievable, not even human, just jumps over, just latches on to Sims. He flubs the ball. Teddy Lehman gets it, scores the touchdown. 14-3, we won the game.
You say not even human. They call it the Superman play.
Yeah, they call it the Superman
play. I was at the game. I saw the whole thing. Unfortunately, that happened on the Texas end. So it was in the Texas end zone. So I couldn't see it that good, but I saw Teddy Lehman running around with the ball in his hand. I said, something happened, something happened. Then they showed it on the replay in the stadium, and I was like, oh my God, what a play.
We actually met Teddy Lehman.
Yeah.
And
cool guy.
we were like, yo, that game was pretty awesome. Uh-huh. He was like, thank you.
Yeah. Teddy Lehman has his own podcast about OU football.
Yeah, I know he does.
Yeah. It's pretty cool one. I liked it. I listen to it every week, so it's a good one.
But yeah, that's my number one. I love that game.
Well, number one, not because it was a great game, but because I was there and we won the national championship 13-2 over those pesky Seminoles of Florida State. Bobby Bowden, the head coach. It was a massive defensive struggle. OU had him shut out the whole game. Quentin Griffin, I think, scored a touchdown, and then we had a couple of field goals. And the only way they scored was our center on a punt snapped it over our punter's head by a mile. And our punter was smart enough to knock it out of the back of the end zone. But we win the national championship, and I was there on the front row, in the end zone, but on the front row. And it was pandemonium after that game as well.
Oh, my Lord.
So, since we won the national championship, since I was there in the Orange Bowl, that was the total rebirth of OU football. The monster was back alive, being fed well by Bob Stoops. Right after the game, I saw on ESPN that Bob Stoops is going to go to the Cleveland Browns. I was like, no, why? We just got good again. We're going to lose Bob Stoops. Sure enough, the loyalty of Bob Stoops.
Honestly, I don't blame him. I mean, usually NFL, well, it depends, but usually from what my watching experience, college coaches don't tend to fare very well in the NFL.
True, yeah. I think, Stoops from Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio, so it was all making sense in my mind, that he was going to leave us. But no, he was a true Sooner. Both of his boys, grew up here.
One of them was playing for us now.
And now Drake Stoops, one of my favorite players. So yeah, I was very nervous, but Bob stuck it out, and he's got my love forever.
Yeah. Were there some games you were expecting me to bring up at all?
Well, I didn't know about which games you might pick. I knew that I thought that Tennessee game might come up in your mind.
That was tough. It was either going to be that at number one or OU Texas 2001 on number one. But I chose OU Texas as number one because I love that game.
A lot of the games you didn't watch as closely because you always thought you were a bad luck charm. I've taken you to
oh my Lord,
OU versus Florida when we lose that national championship game.
Oh man, against
OU Texas that one year, Sam Bradford versus Colt McCoy, a shootout 35-31 where you cried all the way around the stadium as we lost that game when we were walking back in.
Wasn't that when we met that old guy who was like old school OU fan?
I don't remember him. We did meet a Playboy Playmate that you sat next to.
Oh yeah,
and you were pretty happy about that. So that soothed your tears quickly. But so yeah, we've been to a lot of games together where we lost, and the reason why that happens. And we went to OU Notre Dame at home. So some of those games, I knew they weren't going to be on your top five, but you and I have been to some big games. So.
Oh yeah. I'm like I pray to God. I'm like can I please go to a big OU game where we can win, please? Because
let's get a little better right now. I don't think it's time to test the curse.
No,
right
I'm not. I don't want to. I'm not going to test that right now. But I'm just hoping we get a bowl game this year.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same way. So
I thought you were going to bring up some other Bosworth games.
Yeah, Bosworth was my favorite player. There's a bunch of those, but none stick out really to me because you only gave me 5. And I mean these are some big games. 3 of those games you can see were in the year that when we made the big comeback and brought OU football out of the grave. So those are definitely 3 of my favorite. Actually, Is it 3? Yeah, 3 of those games, and then we had the game of the century, and then the OU Ohio State games, which are legendary games. So
I was about to say I was gonna save one of those games for worst losses if we do that episode at some point.
We can do some worst losses. I've got a few of those too. We don't lose that often, but when we do, it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what my number one is.
Which is this?
It was the Boise State one.
Oh, yeah.
Fiesta Bowl.
You had to bring that one up.
I was about to say, I thought you knew that one, right?
Yeah, that one hurt. The getting our butts kicked by USC in the national championship hurt. Losing the national championship against Saban when he coached for LSU hurt. So yeah, there's some heartbreakers in there.
But we'll save that for another episode. We're talking about favorite OU games today.
That sounds good.
Mostly we won.
Yeah. Well, we've had a bye week, Britt.
Yeah,
we rested up. We ready for some OU football?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'm still kind of jittery, but
yeah,
I'm still pulling for the guys.
Well, next up in the second half of the season here in 2022 is the Iowa State Cyclones at Jack Trice Stadium in Iowa State. Luckily, it's at 11 a.m. I know you hate those games, but at least the Iowa State fans can't get all boozed up. Now, Iowa State comes in 3-4 this year. You think they're a lousy team being 3-4? We're going to probably roll over them, right? They're 3-4.
I put a couple asterisks there.
Yeah.
They tend to lose pretty close, but I do think we can win. If we keep playing like we did against Kansas 2 weeks ago, I think we can win.
If our offense plays the same...
I feel a little better about this game, but you never know. Because as I say, football is a notoriously fickle beast.
That is true, and we've got 5 games left. I think we could win all 5. I think we could lose all 5. Don't get me started on that.
We're in straight up chaos this year.
We are in chaos, but we've got Iowa State this year. Now, the thing about Iowa State, they lost to Texas 24-21. Isn't that the team that beat us 49-0?
Yes.
That makes me scared. They lose to Kansas State 10-9. Isn't that the team that put up 41 on us?
I'm not sure. Yes, that happened, but...
And then they lose to Kansas 14-11. Kansas is different this year.
And we did beat them.
Yeah, so. And then they lost to Baylor 31-24. So nobody's blown their doors off. They could have won all 4 of those games, right?
Iowa State under Matt Campbell, they are a scrappy bunch.
Right. So
now, they're kind of in the same position we're in terms... Well, their coach didn't bail on them, but they are kind of in rebuild because they lost Purdy.
Right.
They lost that running back who was a huge pain in our ass for the last, 3 or 4 years.
Brees Hall, yep. What about the tight end that was from Norman that we didn't recruit? Charlie Kolar.
Like a dumbass.
Yeah.
Like dumbasses. We didn't recruit him.
I think that their big playmakers that they've really been a thorn in our side are gone, but
they are scrappy.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting a good game. I think we could pull it out. I mean, if we stay playing as tightly as we did against Kansas, well, maybe don't do those flubs, but those were pretty minor, but maybe don't make the flubs, and we were playing like at 90%, so if we play like that, I think we could win it.
If our offense plays good like they did, and our defense continues to improve, and we build on the win against Kansas, I think we can end up with a great year this year.
We can salvage this.
We'll call salvage. Yeah. Great's a little over the top. But we need to get into a bowl game, and I think that's both you and my dream or goal for this year is to just get into a bowl game, guys. Please. This year, their quarterbacks, Deckers, don't know anything about him. Running back, Brock, know nothing about him. And they've got a great wide receiver. I think he's leading the Big 12 in receiving yards. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but Xavier Hutchinson. So hopefully we've got somebody that can cover him, and our defense can hold up, and our offense can keep cooking, and we can win this game. So big game.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Campbell is He is not a coach to be underestimated.
No,
he
he's
is
a great
always,
coach. He really is.
A lot of people call him overrated. I think he's underrated, actually.
I think he's underrated, too. I'm
'Cause,
surprised he's still there.
He brought Iowa State to relevance.
Yeah,
Iowa State was one of the biggest, non-entities for a while.
I can't tell you who the coach was before.
I know Mangina. I remember Mangina was there for a little bit.
Kansas, but not at Iowa State.
No, he was the coordinator over there for a little bit.
I don't remember it, but anyway.
I remember saw him. I'm like, yeah, let's Coach Donut. And I was
Okay.
yeah. But anyway.
Could be. So we got Iowa State. I think we got to really concentrate on Iowa State. I would go down the rest of the schedule here, but we really...
Only one I'm nervous about is Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Because Baylor's beatable. West Virginia's definitely beatable. Texas Tech, not going to take them lightly. They're actually pretty good this year. But Oklahoma State, of all teams, it's like we call them the little brother, but they've got their big boy pants on right now.
Yeah, they're playing pretty hot right now. They beat Texas, which was unbelievable. They had a big lead.
And Texas choked again.
Well, they allowed Texas to come back, and then
what was it, who could choke more?
And then OSU finally came back in the end and won the game. So
what was who could choke more?
Yeah. So
I mean, I'd be shocked if OSU actually lost against us this year. But you know, hey, I'm gonna keep. There were some years I thought they were gonna beat us, and we weren't playing around. So I mean, you never know. Rivalries are an unpredictable thing.
Right. That is at home, so I'm not gonna go ahead and give that one to OSU just yet.
But the other ones I think are winnable. We just need to play really well, which, we're kind of struggling with that. But you know what? After Kansas, I have a feeling we will improve. I'll put it that way.
Well, I think TCU is for real.
Oh my gosh. They just... So, last year, they were in the past his prime. Gary Patterson started to suck, and then they're like, Gary Patterson, we love you. We'll never forget you, but we got to let you go. And they let him fly into the wind.
Yeah, I thought they were done then. Then they bring in a guy with...
I thought they were screwed.
They bring in a guy with a great football name, Sonny Dykes.
That dude is actually good.
Yeah, and then they brought in Garrett Riley.
Oh, man.
So cringeworthy.
Oh, man. Speaking of Rileys, did USC even play last week?
No, they were on bye also. So. They didn't play last week. I was looking around for them, but they didn't play last week. So TCU's undefeated. They're in the lead in the Big 12, and may go on and win the Big 12. Another game that I didn't really see, I don't know what happened, but South Carolina with Rattler beats A&M 30-24.
A&M is so inconsistent this year.
You're going to like this one, Brett. 3 of their freshman player at A&M got kicked off the team for smoking pot in the locker room before the game. What were they thinking? What kind of culture are they driving down there in Texas A&M that those guys thought that would be cool to smoke some pot before a game on the road in South Carolina?
What are you doing?
Jimbo. Now, he's got an $80 million buyout clause. I guess he's testing that deal.
Oh, my God.
Go ahead and smoke some pot in here, guys. See if you can get me fired. $80 million. I'll ride off in the sunset. Move to Tahiti.
Man. No, I mean...
Wow.
I mean, A&M is inconsistent this year.
Mm-hmm.
They lose to Appalachian State.
Mm-hmm.
Their biggest win since Michigan in 2007.
Right.
Which is actually one of my favorite college football games of all time.
Yeah.
Because, I'm a sucker for upsets. Unless it's against us,
right.
Of course.
Nearly
beats...
Alabama.
Nearly beat Alabama. Now, Alabama's kind of this year.
Yeah.
They're kind of in the year this year. Because, they lost Tua and... Kitty, stop biting
They still have their... the guy that won the Heisman Trophy last year. Bryce Young, the quarterback.
Oh, yeah, the younger guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They still got him, but they don't have King Henry and some of the other great players.
King Henry is one of my other favorite players nowadays. That dude is just a beast amongst men. He's smacked.
He was in that game when Trevor Knight beat him. So.
Oh wow, we beat King Henry.
Yeah, we beat King Henry.
Hey, that's a good flex because he's a bad man.
Yeah, I didn't think he could be stopped. That guy was unbelievable in college. And then the Oregon Ducks, I guess they might,
they salvaged
they're bouncing back. Yeah,
I guess they were really pissed after getting blown out by Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Georgia snaps on them over there the first of the year, and then now they're back to number 8 in the country, and they beat UCLA, which I don't know. Is that a big win? I don't know if they're any good or not.
UCLA is actually good this year.
Yeah, but they beat them 45-30. Pretty good win there. LSU's kind of salvaged their season. They're at 6-2 now. Beat Mississippi 45-20. Ohio State continues to roll. Of course, they played Iowa. I don't even know if they have an offense over there in Iowa at all.
Iowa managed to not score a touchdown in their first game.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
And then they lost to Iowa State like 10-7, so it's just ridiculous.
Oh, God.
And then Clemson is hanging on. I don't know that quarterback for Clemson. His name I can't pronounce, but he looked great that year. He filled in for Trevor, and that few games a few years ago that he filled in for Trevor. When
they're still trying to. Well, they're trying to recover from Brent Venables, which I guess they're succeeding. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, to be fair to Venables, he's kind of in a precarious situation. I mean, Lincoln did kind of screw us over big time.
Yeah.
Me and my grandmother were talking about it, of all people. She's like, "Yeah, he just kind of ran off. That's why they're struggling right now." I'm like, you know what? I agree with you.
Yeah.
Ohio State. Urban Meyer might be I don't like him.
Right.
One, he won a lot, and two, he's actually a pretty terrible human being from what I've heard.
Yeah. That's what they say. We don't know him.
But Ohio State is a contender.
Yeah, they're a contender. I think they got the highest average point total.
I was going to ask you earlier this year, who do you think was going to win the national championship?
Yeah. If I were to
I think it might be either. I think Michigan or Ohio State might do it.
Could be. Michigan's looking pretty salty. I would usually write them off, but they are looking salty. They got a good quarterback this year, good defense. So it's going to come down to Ohio State and Michigan definitely there in the Big Ten. And then, one of the SEC teams. So Georgia, Tennessee keeps rolling on. Our favorite son, Josh Heupel.
Yep.
Coaching there. They beat Tennessee Martin, which that's a blow-off game, but 65-24. But that big win against Alabama.
That was big. That was a confidence booster, I'm sure.
So they're for real.
They're sneaking up.
I still feel like Georgia's got the edge on them, but we'll see how it turns out.
Hey, I was not expecting, because, Saban, Black Magic, that dude tends to slip. Remember the Iron Bowl last year before Bedlam?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, bro, Auburn's totally got this game.
Oh, yeah.
Then what do you know? They managed to go into 2 overtimes, or maybe 3. First time in Iron Bowl history, and Alabama wins it. I'm like, okay. Nick Saban, he is not a mere man. He is a sorcerer.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big win, and that was the foreshadowing of the horrible night we had against Oklahoma State, and then
we almost had that game too.
The events that ensued afterwards. The next morning, my mom said, "Is Lincoln Riley going to the head coach of USC?" Absolutely not. Why would he do that? Oh, he is? What? Oh, he likes the beach like I do, huh? Oh, huh. Okay, well,
and
then we had months of drama that started our quest to do Days of Asuna.
Like I said, I feel like we should have started this last year because last year was so dramatic. But this year's actually proven pretty juicy as well.
Yeah, it has been juicy. There's been a lot of things to talk about this year. I'm just hoping that Eric Gray comes out, continues hot. We got the win. We get the bye. I'm sure we needed to get some players back off of injury and things like that and rest our guys up and practice. Hopefully we practiced, but we lose a little momentum too. We kind of had a good feeling. I'd like to have gotten another game in there and get another good feeling before we had a bye, but You know, I don't make
shall
up the
see.
schedule. I don't
We
make the
shall see.
schedule up. So.
Oh yes. I almost forgot. I was gonna read some tweets.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's finish it with some tweets.
I sent out a thing to ask people, hey, we're going to be doing a favorite OU game-a-thon thing. If you want to share your own favorite games, by all means, go do it. And barely got a response.
Okay. That's all right.
I went on Facebook. I thought Ryan at least was going to answer. Number one fan of the show, Uncle Ryan. Thought he was going to answer. He was going because he always is like, "Oh, what'd you post about?" And he's always texting me about stuff I'm posting. But I did get some responses on Twitter.
Okay. Well, we don't have much of a following, so.
Yeah. Jordan Ashley 4 said the amazing and anxiety-filled 2015 Tennessee comeback with double OT, multiple exclamation points. And you know what? It was number 2 on my list for a reason.
Made my honorable mention, but I've been alive a long time, so.
This guy, Jake Thayer 7, also known as Jaker Mayfield.
Okay, nice.
He says it's got to be the comeback win over Nebraska in 2000. I was 13 years old and I was there. It's definitely one of my favorite OU victories. I will never forget when the crowd chanted, "We're number one."
Oh, I'm getting chills thinking about that.
I'm like, man, like I feel like I missed a lot of great games, but I saw a lot of great ones too.
Yeah, you'll probably see some after I'm gone. So there you go.
Yeah. Oh man.
All right. Well,
I think that's it.
We're back into the football season this week. Let's finish this baby off strong.
Yeah. We didn't mention any Bud Wilkinson games because we were definitely not alive during that period.
No.
The only game I really know of is when those pesky Irish beat us 7-0, snapped our 47 win streak.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that one. So
maybe I'll put that on cruelest losses, even though I wasn't alive during that time.
Yeah, there's probably not many that are alive during Bud's time still, but and they're probably too old to be on Twitter or following us. So. Anyway, it's been a great lifetime of OU football, and
hopefully we can do another one of these in the future.
Yeah, so we'll keep it going until we can't do it no more, right?
Yep. All right. I think that's it for now.
All right. See you, fans.
We're going to be playing Iowa State next week.
Can't wait.
Oh boy. So this has been yet another week of Days of Us Sooners.
Boomer!
All right. See you guys later.